You may be wondering why we are in this dark, dingy garage. Well, don't let appearances fool you. We are in Malibu town in Gurgaon, which is this beautiful gated community over here. Unfortunately, we couldn't shoot outside because it's 9:15 at night and it's too dark and you won't be able to see anything. But don't let that distract you from the person that we are going to meet today. He is Mr. Asheesh, proud owner of this Tata Nexon. But not only has he driven the Tata Nexon, he's also driven the MG, he's driven the BYD, and he is an active member of the community. So we're going to hear some stories from him about his experience with the community, because he's also helped out a lot of members of the community. He's even interacted with celebrities in the community like Gulpanag, who, as we know, is a very, very active and enthusiastic EV advocate. So Asheesh, first of all, welcome.
Thanks a lot.
So my first question to you is, what's your experience been like of driving the Tata Nexon, and having driven the MG and BYD and other electric cars, which would you say is the best car EV to drive?
So it is, I think it is totally dependent upon one's usage and what is the kind of range he's looking at. So yes, if somebody wants to go for a city car, he is good with the Tata Nexon EV, of course. So it gives a good 200 to 220 range, which is fine. I don't think one can drive more than 150 to 200 kilometers in a day, being in the city, of course.
Right.
Highway drives, of course, you have public chargers, which are good and fast enough to charge the car back in 1 hour. By the time you have your eco brake and your pit stop, of course, after every 4 hours, the car is good to go.
Okay, but tell us about some of your crazy experiences with driving an EV. Like the BYD, for example, you drove it ultra efficiently and you drove it a very long distance.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So BYD, yes, of course, at speeds from 100 to 140, it gave me a good range of 4 kilometers per SOC,
Wow.
which was awesome. And I was with my family. The car was fully loaded. We were like 3 people. So yes, it is something really efficient.
Right.
The pickup is a bit on the lower side in comparison to the Nexon EV.
Yeah.
But if I just look at it as a car, as a EV, it is good to drive. It is good, normal car, and you drive with a lot of space in it. It has got a huge boot. It has got enough gadgets to keep you busy. Yes.
No frills, but very efficient.
Yes, it is a no-nonsense car.
Okay. Tell us an instance when you helped out a community member who was in a tight spot.
I get phone calls like every now and then, and I will have like 5 to 10 calls daily and helping out people with the charging stuff. But I think this was one of the instances which came late night, and the Tata Power were really helpful. They got the showroom opened. They got it, they spoke to the person who was the owner of the showroom. They got the charger activated from the back, and then they got it initiated, the charging, and the guy was in Dehradun that time. So yes, late at night, 11:30, with his family, opening the showroom, getting the charger activated was a task for them to speak to the showroom guys, and then further taking it, ahead to activate the lights and everything. The power was required for him to charge. And his family was there, and he had no SOC left. So those were one of the tight spots. But yes, I think there have been a lot of spots where people were requiring help, and yes, it happens.
Yeah, so Asheesh has rescued people from some seemingly impossible situation. So if you live in Delhi, Gurgaon, remember, he's your man.
So even if you don't live in Delhi, Gurgaon, it's okay. I get calls every day from Bangalore and Mumbai also.
Bangalore, Mumbai.
So it's the charger. I don't have to go there and really spot the problem.
Yeah.
So it's just about giving them the feedback,
right,
and telling them the SOP,
yeah,
which people miss here.
Yeah.
So SOP is really important. If there's a standard procedure for operating, it should be mentioned over the chargers, I guess. It will become really easy. Or if it cannot be mentioned over the chargers, it could be a part of the application, because different chargers have different SOPs, and especially with different cars.
One of the problems in India is that not everyone has covered parking. Not everyone is able to park their car in the garage and then get a connection to the meter room. A lot of people park out in the open, and then they take the garage from the window, drop the wire down all the way to the open parking space. We have all kinds of stories like that in India. So Asheesh, what are some examples of charging fiascos that you've seen are interesting according to you?
So interesting, finding a word interesting, within the problems. Yes, sometimes you get a big laugh, because once happened, one of the Nexon EV owners, or one of the EV owners, let's say, I went to his place and he was facing these charging issues, and he wasn't able to, see, it was not exactly a charging issue. He was facing an issue, the infotainment was not getting turned off. So the parking he had in a small house, which was a rented house, and he was not able to open the driver's side door. So when I went there and I saw the problem, because he used to get out of his rear door, and that was a big thing. It was a funny part, and he told me each and everything over the phone, and I could not figure out why is the charging not happening or the infotainment not getting turned off. Next day when I went to his house, it was a small little problem. He had to just open the door, the driver door, and close it, because he did not have space enough to park the car that way, and then the charging point being able to make it to the car. So that was a pretty tight spot for him, and he used to plug his charger opening the window of the rear door and then come out of the other rear door and then turn on the charger. So for him, even doing some troubleshooting, looking at the lights over the charger is a big task.
Yeah.
So yes, these things happen. I'm sure people are gradually learning about it. They are getting educated that one does not really require chargers. It is more about a 16 ampere plug, which is well done and which has a proper earthing connection. Nothing more to it. Even all the hotels and guest houses, they are missing on it. All they want is a plug. That's it. They can have 20 plugs in their parking and call them EV friendly, and they can charge 20 cars at one go. That would be awesome.
Right. And I think you mentioned that you or a friend of yours found an EV charger that had about 4 guns, and obviously the whoever had set it up had spent a lot of money in doing it, but then it was in a very sad state and it was lying on the floor. All 4 guns were lying on the floor. And
yes.
What was the reason for it? Tell us.
So that incident happened early morning actually, and it was just close to India Gate, the Nehru Place charger, the Nehru Park charger. And usually what happens, it's an open thing, and when it's early morning, it was when we came out of the car and we saw the guns, and then later on we started to realize there's a lot of noise coming from somewhere. And as we turned upside, we saw there were like about good 40 to 80 monkeys. And of course then we realized, it did not took us much time to realize that the people who had charged their cars were scared of monkeys, and they did not wanted to go back and put the gun back into its place. So they left the gun on the floor itself, and this happened. Yes, it's a funny part, but it's a sad part is there was no guard to handle that, and there's no one to take care of those chargers. If I just remember it, there were 4 CCS chargers, there were almost 8 GBYT chargers there. If one has to spend and make such kind of a station, it will require crores of rupees, but they have not been guarded by anyone who is taking the responsibility to keep them clean and maintain them. That's the sad part.
Yeah. So these are the crazy things that are happening with EVs in India. But so long as we have people like Asheesh, I'm confident that anyone who wants to buy an EV will be able to troubleshoot their problems and will be able to use it satisfactorily, charge it satisfactorily. Give us some examples of how people who don't have parking spots park their cars out in the open, how they manage to charge their cars. Some instances that you've seen.
Yes, I've seen a couple of houses where people get the wire from the 3rd floor, staying in a floor. They get it from the 3rd floor and they charge their car. They have big extension wires. We normally carry a EV kit, which includes a earthing cable, which has a meter. So if we charge at a dhaba or a hotel, we know how many units we consumed, how much we owe him. But yes, talking about coming back to the point, from the story, yes, 3rd story, 4th story, some were even managing, till from the 8th story. Wow. There are people who, don't get, permission from their buildings to use the connection or to use the walls and use their own meter for the purpose of charging an EV. Sometimes in societies, people say the EVs are not really safe to be charged. And what if, chaos happens? But luckily this car has a LPF battery, and there's no thermal runway to it, which gives it a safety feature. But yes, people lack knowing this feature. The education is a problem. They being educated about the EV, I think if anyone can guide them towards the whole process of EV or using an EV, it would be a really good country to see cars and only EVs on the roads.
Right.
We see a better and a greener India, for sure.
Okay, Asheesh, you've done nearly 30,000 kilometers
Yes.
in this Nexon.
Yes.
Tell us about all the places that you visited in this car.
You mean the long distance?
Yeah.
So yes, I've done journeys, till Jaipur. I've done journeys till Udaipur. I've done journeys till Amritsar. So those are the places I've been to. Best happens to be the Amritsar trip because that was the longest. It was one way about 600 kilometers.
Okay.
So the best part was we had to charge twice, which happens to be good. Because we get to see if we are able to have that patience of driving a vehicle
Passenger
and then
seat belt.
your passenger vehicle seat belt. So the Amritsar trip, we started early morning, and then we reached the Karnal static charger, which was about 200 kilometers. And after those 200 kilometers, of course, I started to charge. Now it was the first time I received an error in my car, so I wasn't able to charge. I spoke to StarTech, I spoke to the showroom guys. And then I reached the TATA Motors workshop. They figured it out. It was a software issue, which happened because of the Delta chargers. It is, if you use a 50 kilowatt or the 60 kilowatt charger, there is some communication error which comes. Although the problem is kind of rectified, but yes, it still happens at times.
Okay.
So yes, it takes the reliability for a toss.
So what a stressful thing to happen on a 600 kilometer trip. So
Yes.
did you lose hope at any time, or were you always confident the issue would be resolved?
Not really, because this was early morning. I started from home
Okay.
and I reached there in 4 hours. So a distance of about 200 kilometers. I was with family, and then I told them that I'm going to the service station, and of course it was open. Had it been night, I had no other option but to stay there. But yes, luckily it was day, and I was able to do the drive. Go to the service center, get it rectified within 15-20 minutes.
Right.
He had a fast charger there to check if my vehicle is now taking the fast charging. Then I went to the ABB charger, which was in Savoy Greens, Karnal, again by Static, and I was able to charge there.
Okay.
That is ABB is a better charger to charge. Right now, all the community, because we have a group and we have more than 1,500 to 2,000 members who are the real owners and drive every day. We have, faced all the issues only in Delta and Exicom chargers, but ABB has worked flawlessly each and every time.
So I think our viewers will remember that recently we went to Ooty and we used Xeon chargers, which use ABB.
Yes.
And they were quite reliable, and we had a very smooth experience. Do check out those videos if you haven't already.
Of course, I will do that. I've already seen those, and I feel good for Xeon also.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, when all the Mercs and the Audis and the BMs are going to be rolling on the road, they wouldn't want to go for any other option than ABB. They would want their crore of rupees of car to be safe and sound. Right now maybe there is 1 or 2 chargers on the highways, and people don't find an option. Once the options are there, people will surely go for only ABB.
Considering your massive experience with these different charging operators,
Yes.
What feedback would you give to charging operators in general to improve the infrastructure, make things easier for EV users?
So first of all, I really pay my respect to them, because they are into a business where viability is very low right now, and it is going to take good 2 to 3 years for the ecosystem to develop completely, and their chargers getting a full-time uptime. But talking about it, they should avoid being at one space.
Okay.
Because I've seen some instances where some companies have offered better perks to some restaurants or some food courts, and the earlier charges have been removed. So it is a bad practice which the CPOs would follow in case they do so. And right now, because the ecosystem is still developing, there's a lot of space, there are a lot of locations. Right now this should not happen. if this would have happened maybe 5 years later, we would have thought it is a premium location. But right now, there are all the locations which are vacant, and one can go look for a second location. Why to look for a business where somebody else started and he made that a charging point, and he's reliably able to give everything nicely with a good charger. So that is something which I would want the CPOs to take care of. They should not encroach the other CPO's location.
So I think, did that really happen?
Yes, right now I think the criteria is more the chargers, the better it is. Okay, so I think that's why I said the chargers will still be more even if they were at different locations. It is not a bad thing, because the other CPO which was already present might have plans to increase his charging stations within the same food court, but yes, did not happen. But probably I think when it will happen the vice versa, the CPOs would realize that this is a bad thing to follow. But
so you think there should be chargers everywhere? Every hotel should have one. Customers should have as much freedom as possible to be able to charge at their convenience anywhere.
Yes, I think a 1 lakh rupee charger, which is a AC charger by ABB,
A slow charger.
a slow charger, AC charger, slow charger. We quote them as AC chargers, of course, but yes, slow charger. Like you said, it could be fast for few maybe. The cars which have onboard chargers like BYD has 40 kilowatt hour charger.
Wow.
So of course, for them it is not a slow charger. It is still working the way a fast charger may work for a Nexon EV.
Right.
Because all we can take is maximum of 21 kilowatt.
Right.
So they take a 21 kilowatt in an AC charger.
Right.
And they can go till 40 kilowatt.
Amazing.
So that is something double to the Nexon EV, if I may say. Because when I spoke to these people and I wanted to know why the cars are not equipped with an 11 kilowatt charger, if every car was equipped with it, the AC chargers, the business viability would be much more better. The hotels could easily go for AC chargers, they being much more cheaper. Of course, there's a lot of difference between 20 lakhs and there's a lot of difference in 1 lakh, spending 1 lakh and getting a business viability.
Correct.
The charging rates per unit are the same, or rather they can lower down the margins if they have a AC charger where they only invested in a lakh rupee instead of investing 20 lakh rupees for a DC charger.
Correct.
But then I came to know it is the framework of the car. It has to be a combination with the battery size, the framework of the car, and the load it could take. Of course, the battery size would depend on the size of the car. So yes, it is something which is not possible right now.
Yeah.
Maybe later on with the technology coming up, we have better batteries, and we have batteries covering much lesser space than they are right now.
And of course, not every hotel or dhaba owner could afford a 20 lakh rupee charger, but almost all of them could probably afford a 1 lakh rupee AC slow charger.
Well, 1 lakh is again 22 kilowatt charger.
Yeah.
If they go for a normal charger, 7.2 kilowatt, it would be costing them not more than 20,000 rupees.
Alright, so we've talked enough about the charging experience. Let's talk a little bit more about the car itself. So Asheesh, tell us about give us the top 3 bits of feedback that you'd like to give to Tata Motors about the Tata Nexon and your based on your driving experience.
Well, I would say they should have a proper SOP to be followed for each and everything, and it should be provided to each and every owner. So that is where it starts from, because we have updates which roll out over the software updates, but mostly people don't know about them. When they are stuck on the road, then when they speak to the Tata people and they say there's an update you did not go for, so he comes to know there was an update, how the hell in the world he's going to come to know about it himself? Okay, we on the group discuss it, but not too many people who are active enough who would come and read all the chat every day.
Yeah, not everyone is that tech savvy.
Yes. Not only tech savvy, you need a lot of time to read 200 to 500 messages every day, because there are so many of issues and there's so much to discuss about this, that they are normal. Normally there are 500 messages every day.
Why doesn't Tata send a reminder to everyone anytime there's a software update? Don't you think that is something that they should be doing?
Well, they can do that. We have a connected car and we use an app daily, most of us. And their notification could come over the application itself, and they don't need to send us emailers or something, because you have junk folders, you have spam folders, so it might go there. Daily would really be a dream. Even if they send us a mail once a week or maybe once a month, it would be really very nice of them.
Right.
That people would know what is the software update. There have been no software update details given to us till date. We only come to know from the service center why the update is happening. What is the modification being done in the update? We generally don't come to know about it unless and until we speak to some people directly in Tata, and everyone does not have a connect to them. He does not or she does not know about it, or him. That becomes a problem.
Yeah, so this is typical corporate thinking. I mean, people should not have to pay 15 lakh rupees for a car and then be reduced to begging Tata for information about software updates and what the software update actually contained. Tata itself should take the initiative to share this information on a regular basis with all customers.
Then the word corporate, when you say, reminds me of the movie with the same name, and there was a good dialogue by the clerk that पूछता है उससे कि कॉर्पोरेट क्या होता है, ये कहते हैं कॉर्पोरेट ये क्या होता है, तो उसका आंसर देता है जब एक बंदे का काम 100 लोग मिलके खराब करते हैं तो उसको कॉर्पोरेट कहते हैं. There's a communication problem.
Yeah. So would you say that the second big issue that Tata needs to improve on is diagnosing the problem with the car accurately and then providing the precise solution to the problem?
Not only the solution, but also the information why the problem occurred. Because unless and until somebody would know what was the problem and what was the diagnosis to it, he wouldn't be able to maybe do that later on. Somebody today itself was stuck with a hard steering. He had an error. The light was glowing. He did not know what to do. He called the Tata Motors. They had no clue. They said just take out the battery terminal, try to reset it. Nothing happened. He checked in his app running the diagnosis. The same steering error came. Ultimately, he had to, the car got towed. It went to the service center. The next day, he came to know, the same day, sorry, in the evening, he came to know the fuse, the small 5 ampere fuse, got blew. So it was a small little thing.
Right.
He could have changed the fuse himself.
Right.
Would have not wasted him the whole day without the car.
Yeah.
He could have utilized it. So small little problem. This is one of the big examples I can give you. That it was a small, tiny little problem, and they were not able to do it because there was a communication problem. If they have good customer care,
Who's that?
that's okay. If they have good customer care, that is what happens. They are able to tell them the hacks, or they are able to tell them efficiently what exactly to check. But the problem is at night hours, at late hours, there are many a times the customer care does not take the call. One is stranded on the road waiting for half an hour, and they will say we will call you back, but they are busy. They need to have maybe less but efficient, customer care executives, so that they know about the EV. They don't know what a EV is. The problem is the people who are working in the customer care, they are not at a level where they afford the cars. They don't know even the ICE cars. Talking them about a EV is like, they are at Mars.
So let's say a person has a breakdown in the middle of the night and they're stranded in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
And Tata cannot help them because the customer service is not very proficient, cannot understand the problem. So what do you do then? Do you turn to the community to look for answers?
Yes. Normally we will have a message in the group. If he is not a group member, he will be on the Facebook. You will see a lot of people asking questions. I'm stuck here with my charger not working. What to do? This is normal. So meanwhile, while I say this, I recall now there are so many groups for EV owners just because there are so many problems.
Oh my God.
And those problems are not being properly handled by the companies who are mainly the Tata, because right now the masses is buying the Tata Nexon or the Tigor, and they are coming with good cars. But why not improve the service standard so that even the people who are using the car earlier enjoy those good part of it?
Alright, so we've talked about the two major feedback nodes. The first is communication about software updates and other issues with the car and so on. The second thing that we've talked about is service for the car, having a knowledgeable customer service staff, all those things. What is the third big feedback note that you'd like to give Tata?
Well, it's really difficult to find one big one out of so many. But okay, because we had this experience, we had this first meeting with the top senior management of the EV, of the Tata EV, in 2020. And thereon they said, we will take the feedback. They worked on the problem. They came with the upgrade. It was given to us, and they also said we will, because it's a new tech and you guys are really driving it, and you guys are the real users, we will like to have your feedback every 3 months. But after that, the call happened maybe late after 8 months, when there was a big problem. There was a lot of critical errors coming in the cars, and we had this meeting again, and with Mr. Anand Kulkarni himself. So that was the word given by him, that we will now have meetings every 2 months now onwards over Zoom call. But then after that, we ask them for meetings. We want to ask them what happened about the softwares. We want to ask them what is the company doing, why they are not changing it, why these things are not being taken care of. Because every day there is something new which comes up, and which is a very normal and a generic problem, which they wouldn't understand because they are not actively using the EVs. All the spare parts, all the electrical infrastructure would be taken care of, and it would be all with a 8-year warranty. When specifically, the question was asked by Rachit, okay, and he replied that apart from the motor and the battery, all the infrastructure, all the work, all the things which are related to the battery and the motor, which includes the AC/DC charger, which he mentioned, which includes the DC/DC converter. He mentioned all these things very clearly, but later on we came to know the company is only providing warranty for 3 years. So telling 8 years over a marketing video, and then later on telling us that it's only for 3 years, it's not a good practice to do.
We recently learned that the motor can cost 4.5 lakhs rupees to replace. The power distribution unit can cost 1.5 lakh rupees to replace. So basically, if the warranty is over, then the customer is more or less screwed. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, how do you think Tata can improve its transparency?
Well, I think they should, first and all, like I mentioned in the earlier answer, the diagnosis is very much required. If they have a good diagnose system, I am sure the PDU does not needs to be replaced every time there is a problem. Okay, although they haven't replaced so many PDUs, but yes, there have been instances. Many times we have heard from the group members that our PDU got changed because they see a amount in the invoice which is 1.25 lakhs. Although yes, then there is a box which says under warranty period, so it's been taken care of. But after 3 years, when those parts would have worn out furthermore than they are today, then the battery, then the warranty would be required, and they would need only the parts which have really blown to be taken care of. So the diagnosis system should improve rather than changing a complete PDU
or even repair. You can say.
Repairing, if they can repair the PDU, it would be much better. Because PDU has fuses. I am sure all the 4 fuses cannot blow at one go, and they don't have the criteria of changing the PDU.
Yeah, so I think our viewers will know that we have faced this issue with the Mahindra E2 in the past as well, where basically repair is not part of the seller's policy. It's always replace, and that's how they make their money. They want to bring the same ICE model that they've been peddling for the last 100 years into the electric car market. So it's an egregious practice, and a solution should be found for it soon.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a major one, because nobody would want to pay all the money he saved. That feeling of saving the money first and then paying back in a different way, where the dealers or the service centers are enjoying a good markup, is not a good idea.
Alright, so Asheesh, we've talked about so many problems and all the feedback that you've given. Now looking at this video, a poor guy who was thinking of buying Tata Nexon, Tata Tiggo is going to think, my God, this is just awful. I don't want to buy a Tata car ever in my life. But when you went to buy a Tata Nexon, you did not even look at any other car. You wanted Tata Nexon. You're very happy with your Nexon, and you want the company to grow. So, would you still give a wholehearted endorsement to a Tata Nexon or the Tata EV in general?
Yes, I would do that, because I know I had many cars in my lifespan so far, and I have had problems with every car.
Right.
Even the ICE car face problems, and this is a new tech. This is facing problems, and you know what happens? जो कम दिखती हैं वो ज़्यादा के ज़्यादा लोगों को दिखती हैं. They stand out. Because because the EV stands out, people see more EVs getting on the road or in the workshop. But if you see, the workshops are full of ICE vehicles. There are very less EVs.
Right.
Just because they're not being sold yet. But ultimately, every car requires a normal maintenance and service, which is there in Tata also, and they are doing a fine job. They are coming up with improvements. That is the good part. They are coming up with improvements, and they are doing it slowly and gradually. The speed is the issue.
Yeah.
Had they been doing this at an early stage or at a faster pace, it had been very helpful to us. I did not even look at MG or a Hyundai before going for this car. I wanted to only go for a made in India car, and Tata had given it to me, which was a practical car. I also wanted to go for a E2O, but then of course it did not feel like a practical car for a guy who is 6'3" like me. So yes, of course I would have faced a lot of problems. So I did not go for that car. But yes, Nexon is a very practical car, and I love my car. I am not wanting to sell it at any cost.
Okay. So you heard it directly from the horse's mouth. Asheesh, who is a very well-respected member of the Tata community, the EV community, who has helped so many people troubleshoot their problems with the EVs. He says that, despite everything, go for a Tata electric car, but go in with your eyes open. We hear so many people tell us, hey, buy this EV with your eyes closed, but no. Asheesh says, keep your eyes open, find out all the problems, and then make your decision, and definitely you will not be unhappy.
Fantastic.
So thank you so much, Asheesh. This was such a great experience, and I really enjoyed talking to you, and you are such a knowledgeable person, and I do hope that we will be able to have another conversation sometime soon in the future.
Same, buddy. The feeling is mutual. It was fun to be with you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. And if you like this video, remember, like, share, subscribe to PluginIndia. Bye.